the first fact pattern that we have is oh, there we go. Is the occupation of flagger. So if you don't know what the SOT code is, then you have to figure it out. You can either ask the vocational expert what SOT code it is, or you can just look it up in our DOT set. And so we type in flagger, and there's two of them. This is the unskilled variety, R2 M1L1, and it is a amusement and recreation attendance. Is that what we're talking about? Or is it this one? 212, but this is crossing guards and flaggers. I think this is the one that Brian referenced. Okay, so it's 339091. And if we don't know anything about the occupation, it doesn't snap to our heads what is going on with the occupation. The first place you start is in the calculator, because it's going to gather some of the most important data that we have. So we're going to type in crossing guards and flaggers. We just get to cross, we get the occupational group and OEWS, and we want full-time work, and we want the 2023 data set, and we want that, and we want light work. Fair enough. All right. We hit submit, and it tells us that there are no full-time crossing guards and flaggers in the national economy. It's game over at the full-time question. So if we actually doubt that that is what the ONET says, we go to the ONET, we go to the work detailed report, and we type in crossing guards and flaggers. We get to cross, we get it, there it is. And we can just select cognitive and mental limitations, because that's where it's going to be, and scroll down. Or we can just Control F and type in 40. And there it is. There are no full-time 40-hour-a-week crossing guards and flaggers. They work part-time. Does that make sense? Actually, it does. What is the SSA definition of full-time work for crossing guard for work at step 5? Step 5 of the sequential evaluation process. It is, in fact, a 40-hour work week under 96.8P. Young is the resident expert on 96.8P. He has it memorized. Is that right, Young? It's full-time work, 40 hours a week?
Regular and continuing work.
Okay. And it does make reference to 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, or an equivalent schedule. So every other measure of full-time work that's out there outside of the ONET, whether it is Job Browser Pro or SkillTran products, the community population survey, the census studies, they're using a different measure of full-time work. They're using 35 hours a week. And so we have measures that say 35 hours a week, and we have one measure that says 40 hours a week. And there's only one of them that's agency compliant. It's the ONET.
Hey, Larry.
The ONET is the right one. Say it again.
Larry, can you go back? What is the very first thing you typed in to get the very first thing you typed in after you got the SOC code? Where did you type that in?
Okay, I'll go back. And so we're going to go to occupational requirement survey calculator reports.
All right, that's the one. Okay.
Okay, and then that gives us the first one is our basic calculator. We're going to have more calculators coming later. But that's our basic one.
Larry, who did you say? So you said Job Browser Pro and somebody else uses a 35-hour week. Could you say that again?
Yes. The Job Browser Pro uses community population survey, the CPS. The CPS is uses 35 hours. The Census Bureau uses 35 hours. Everybody else uses 35 hours. And so the question at a hearing, if the vocational expert says, I've only identified full-time work, is what's your data source for that? And if they don't say the ONET online, then the next question is, how does that data set define full-time work? Do they define full-time work as 35 hours a week or 40 hours a week? And then you ask them, is 35 less than 40? Is 35 hours a week an equivalent work schedule to a 40-hour work week? And if it's not, and I was not a math major at any point in my life, but I can do this one. 35 is less than 40. 8 is more than 6. 7's more than 6.
Isn't there something in like without in Social Security law somewhere that says that they consider like more than if it's more than 32 hours or something like that? Maybe it's the 35 hours. Maybe that's what I heard before.
SSA doesn't say that. SSA defines full-time work as a 40-hour work week.
Okay.
I mean, we can,
I think VEs have said that in terms of California. I've heard that a couple of times, but that's neither here nor there.
how does SSA define full-time work? Google says it's 5 hours a day, 5 days a week. And they cite the SSA handbook. And if anybody cites a California rule for SSA, this is the agency policy response is that this is a national program and we don't care about states. We care about the national program. So there are only 9 states that have mandatory work breaks. But that doesn't mean that nobody has work breaks outside of those 9 states. And the fact that California has a 10-minute work break and not a 15-minute work break doesn't matter either. If other states if employers in most states have a custom of 15-minute break in the morning and the afternoon. It is in fact a national program. So if people start talking about state data, just shut them down. It's not relevant.